What's up, beautiful people? I'm Nathaniel Pearl.
And I'm Sami Sheva.
And welcome to Curious Chimps Podcast, a show where we explore the infinite complexities of the human experience.
We do not endorse anything illegal, so please, consult doctors, do your research, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps.
What's up, Sami?
Quarantine, bro. Covid-19, 2020.
Oh my God. Sami can't make it with me because he's social distancing like a good citizen, like you should all be doing too.
Apparently, we got a new Spanish flu over here, guys.
Yeah,
It's no bueno. Not funny.
it's pretty crazy, and the panic is definitely real, and it's weird to see.
Everybody is suddenly working from home.
If they can. A lot of people are really not working, which is crazy too.
That's the craziest part. Dude, I don't have my finger on the pulse, and I'm hearing just like, I try not to watch the news too much because it can be overwhelming, but it is like people need a lot of information right now, so it's like the best place to go. Depends. A lot of places are just trying to what's going on, and it's like, you know, there's so many like special needs people. There's so many people who've lost businesses. There's so much healthcare that's being neglected. There's so much that's just like frozen or crashing down like a sandcastle just because of this situation.
We're just not prepared.
Scary. It's like we're living through a moment in history.
We really are, and like we're just not prepared. None of us saw this coming, and there's nothing set in place to save quote unquote everyone. We're kind of just scrambling around trying to make sense of the whole thing, and the government included, which is it's kind of crazy to see. I'll be very honest. It's a unique experience if you look at it objectively, but it's terrifying and kind of beautiful and kind of wild, and it's just all of the above. It's a wake-up call for sure, you know? And I think all of us are going to reassess the way we live after this experience.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. There's so much there's so much facing of things, you know? Like I don't want to say it in a dualistic way, but it's like there's so much patience or impatience. There's so much laziness or hard work. Like so much it's like we're being squeezed like a pore, you know, and there's just like pus coming out, and it's like whatever's inside of you is coming out, and no one is like strongly one of these things. Like I was talking to Marky Beats, who was like on our podcast. I was talking to him earlier, and he works hard, man. He sits down and he makes music, and like he was noticing that he's sitting there like way more because he doesn't have any gigs, he can't go out, he's just stuck at home, and he's actually like tired, like he's burning out a little bit because he works hard. And he's feeling like he needs to take a break. He's sitting down a lot, and he's like a very athletic guy. You can't go to jiu-jitsu class and shit like that. Like,
you know what it is?
This is one person's simple life being very distorted, and it's like it scales all the way down to like homeless people who are like really already neglected, and now no one can help them. Or it scales all the way up to government, and like I don't even know how that looks, but they're just scrounging is not the word. They're scrambling to give people money to just keep the system running the way it's running. And I mean, I don't think you or I understand it well enough to really get into it in like a political level. I don't know how comfortable I feel.
Well, I mean, we're experience hit firsthand, so we can talk from our perspective. You know, it's like
talking to people who are experiencing it also.
Yeah, and
you know,
like talking about Marky, like. I think there's something going on because everyone I talk to is feeling so tired, me included, just fatigued daily. And I think there is just this collective stress that is in the back of our mind. Whether we want to bring it to the surface or not, we're all worried and we're all freaking out internally, and some people more externally. And that puts a weight on you. There's an actual enemy around us right now, a threat, and we're all like on edge. And that is a huge amount of mental power and brain power to constantly think about that and try to keep your cool, to say. But that's kind of the reason we're all getting so tired, I think, is just it's scary to be it's tiring to be afraid, you know?
Just physically demanding. Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, like, there's always this kind of like existential knock at the door when it comes to the outside world, you know. And now it's like really, now it's breaking the door down. You know, it's not just like there's these little rumbles in your mind. I mean, like I can be a kind of selfish or thoughtless person sometimes, you know, and there's so much going on in the world that you just have to push it aside to get shit done in the day, and then you get good at it. You know, there's like hunger and poverty issues and all these things like that. You know, there's wars, there's murders, there's crazy things going on. There's corruption at government levels. There's takeovers and just like suffering, a lot of suffering in a lot of different forms, mostly for the sake of like money or some kind of greed, power grab or something. And then suddenly this like natural, this very strange, it's strange to call it a natural disaster, but like there's just this sudden, can't ignore thing that everyone suddenly at the same time has to react to. And there's two sides to that too, I guess, you know, like you're gonna feel really all the stuff that you said about this kind of draining, excited state, you know, but there's also this like solidarity, and there's like I've watched like operas online, I've gone to museums, like there's so many things that are like, oh, you're stuck home, like we're gonna throw all this stuff at you now, we're trying to help people. And then there's the capitalization of it, the capitalizing on the situation, which most governments I think are going to do in one way or another. I love the quote from Winston Churchill where he says like, don't waste a perfectly good tragedy or something like that. Maybe that's not what he meant exactly, but you can see it. You can see it happening in the stock market and stuff like that. And even in a small way, like my dad was watching TV and it was like some American channel, and suddenly there's two different models I saw, two different commercials. It's like a mirror and it's like a workout companion. So it's like a TV. It shows you kind of like a hologram of like someone showing you the movements and stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the models was even like a gym. So it had like a kind of Bowflex, like a bench, and like you had like grips and like handles with it's like tied to a string, and it had like a certain amount of tension.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, you're stuck home, but like stay home and work out. You don't have to go out anymore. And it's like some people want this.
Well, I don't know if it's people want this. I think it's right now we're all home and afraid, and that's creating this kind of market, you know, and I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just there's nothing else to do, Sammy. You know? That's
how it feels now. I think the bad thing that I'm afraid of is that we're already like in a Netflix and chill kind of, like we're going in this kind of society where we just stay at home, we work from home, we watch things, and we don't have to go outside. We press a button and the food comes to us. Like it's turning into that already. And now that we're forced to be inside, I'm afraid that we're going to see how easy it is to live like this all the time. And I feel like a lot of people, again, it's a duality thing. A lot of people are going to burst out of their house singing in the rain, and other people are never going to fucking leave their house again because they realize they don't have to.
It's funny you take this angle, because I actually think it's going to be the contrary, the complete opposite. I think what makes people happy is not this, and a lot of people are not in a good state right now, and they want human connection, and they want to be a part of crowds again. And maybe it won't be to the same extent it was once, but I really feel like people are itching. Like we want to be around. Like I went grocery shopping, and that was one of the most surreal experiences. I went like a few days ago. I don't know if you've done it recently.
They have like all the X's on the floor and shit, like telling you to be 2 feet apart or just 2 meters apart.
Everything was weird. There's like certain amount of people can go in. There's, like you said, the X's on the floor where you're supposed to stand. And in a weird way, like there was a bad energy in there. Everyone's nervous, everyone's keeping their distance, but it was kind of felt a little bit homey in a weird way, that I was like, fuck, I've been alone for like 20 days and now I'm around people again. This kind of feels nice in this weird way. And we need that as a society. We need human interaction. It's so part of our evolution. Like we spoke about in recent podcasts, is just when that's taken away, we're kind of a little bit of a psychological mess right now. I talk to a lot of people and they're losing their minds, but if you think about it, it should be something easy to be in isolation, but it seems to be very difficult for a lot of people.
I mean, it's historically, I guess it's never been easy. A lot of people like get stressed out and lose their fucking mind in like long-term isolation. This isn't the same as that, you know, like calling it isolation, social isolation. It's still going to be hard on us. It's not fair to compare it to like someone being locked in a fucking box with no window or something and no interaction at all.
No, but you know, maybe there's some people that live in like these tiny little bedroom apartments, studio apartments, and they're really feeling it, you know, like I feel for those people as well, you know. It's different. It's a huge shift in our day-to-day life. But what I think is going to come out of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm really hoping that we're going to gain this level of gratitude and appreciation for the little things in life. And I think this is just a wake-up call that, hey, we can't operate on this system we thought was the way life should be. It is fragile, and it can be pulled right off from under our feet. And before you know it, we're in total chaos. I'm hoping people are going to rethink the way they live their lives after this.
I think a lot more people than before will. I think it's like an inevitable change, you know, like an inevitable distance from the way things were before. That people are going to look at governments differently. They're going to look at global finances and economy in general, like differently. They're going to look at their job differently. Like, I saw this meme that I've been kind of parroting before I even saw it. Like, what kind of world do we live in where, like we get a hiccup that, first of all, a bunch of experts did know was coming, and nobody did anything about it, because it's like the scientists are in the fucking corner yapping about a problem that doesn't exist, and everyone's saying, fuck you, that costs money, we're not going to deal with it until we have to. And then a bunch of people die. And then a bunch of people take advantage of that on the stock market, and it's horrible. But it's a wake-up call for a lot of us, that a lot of things can't run the way they do. People who think they're successful, people who think that they have a good life, their business stops for 2 weeks and they have to shut down. They're not protected. Yeah. They're living day to day and they're calling themselves successful in a society where like a solar flare or a fucking virus or something can really just disrupt everything. And we think of these things, we talk about these things, but it's the same thing we were talking about before, like poverty and hunger and stuff. Like, there's problems in the world that can be solved, and we don't treat them like they can be solved, and we just go back to our lives, our daily lives. And I hope that gratitude that comes from getting through this moment doesn't blind us even more. You know, like, we'll have the gratitude of just like, oh, I can go fucking outside. I can see my friends. I want to work. I want to go to work. You know, a lot of people lost jobs and they're going to be begging to have the job back that they probably hated going to every day. But then, is that a good thing? You know, gratitude is always a good attitude. Attitude. But change is also necessary. You know, again, I'm trying to avoid duality. Like, there's a necessity to be okay with what's going on, but part of what's going on is a desire to improve, a desire to change and to level up. And as a society, that is just as expected and just as necessary, maybe less expected, but just as necessary, if not more necessary, than the individual or the pockets of people. And I think you were saying it a couple of days ago, but that's a really cool thing that might happen also, is like communities in a smaller sense. Yeah. So like the kind of garden around you is going to feel much more important.
That's it.
Because the global mindset doesn't serve us really as humans. Not most of us. I think 80% of us are just getting overwhelmed by information.
I think we just got too comfortable as a society. We had it too easy. Everything was at our fingertips, and it enforced a level of being spoiled, expecting everything now. And now this just happened, and we're like, wait, this lifestyle isn't actually as sufficient as we thought. And I was telling my girlfriend this the other day, and I think this is a huge point to put out. Never again, or maybe, but in human history, never will you be able to have an encouragement to stay home and sit and think like we do right now. It's encouraged globally to stay home and self-reflect in a sense, because what else are you going to do besides you can bore yourself, you can entertain yourself for so long before you really have to just start thinking, because if this goes on for 3 months, 4 months, you're just going to have to really evaluate your life. There's nothing else you can do. And there's never been a point in history where the government even is paying people to stay home and to think things over. And I think that's where the power is going to come, is where people are going to literally start to reevaluate things they do. Hey, maybe this promotion that I've been neglecting my children for 10 years is not worth it. Maybe I should spend more time with my kids. But maybe I shouldn't go for this job I've been fighting for my whole life. Like, I thought it was so important, and now all of a sudden it has no value to me. Like, I think these questions are going to be asked to themselves, and we're going to see some type of transition. I don't know how it's going to turn out, Sami, but it's going to be different. Everything's going to be different after this. That's for sure. Whether it's good or bad is going to be, time will show that. But different is different, you know?
I think it'll be a little bit bad at first, because there's always like a lag. There's always a group of people who feel the change coming, and they want to either accept it or reject it, or guide it or control it, because it's like a raw energy, like an opportunity to change things in the way they want things to be. And then there's a whole other like third or fourth group of people who don't even see the change coming, and they just desperately want things to go back to the way they were. And in a lot of ways, things are going to be status quo eventually, which personally terrifies me, because there's nothing scarier for me than the loss of information. You know, it's like there's this kind of like black holes are like this kind of existential crisis for me, because scientifically there isn't a full loss of information, but this is not a science class. It's just the fact that like someone who died was not remembered, you know, or like a beautiful thought you had was not written down. Like, these things kill me. These things itch. They itch, man. I hate it so much. And to think that we're going through this drastic change where someone could realize, as big as people realizing how the government is fucking us over or not taking care of us, and as small as someone realizing, that they just don't want to be on the path that they're on. If this moment goes to waste, it just hurts. It just bothers me, because a lot of people are suffering right now in a lot of very unique ways, and it's I don't know, it's like my sense of justice or something, but it can't go to waste. There's people who just don't have basic necessities right now. And yesterday or a week ago, they were doing fine. Yeah. You know? And like, look, me and you now, we have to do this thing over the internet. Like, it's little changes, big changes, huge imposed changes. Something has to give. Something has to change. I don't know what it looks like, but I hope it's a bunch of people saying, what the fuck is going on? I think I can take comfort in the fact that people are going to just ask more questions. You know, they're just going to be like, what am I doing with my life? What is really important to me? What kind of power do we have as people? You know, like a lot of what we were talking about in terms of the change and the forced seeing of change, a lot of it, for me, reflects on how the environment is like cleaning itself up, you know? Yeah. Suddenly people are just like indoors for a couple of days or weeks, and like China has no smog.
Well, that's it. Like, and there was like swans in the canals in Italy. You saw that?
Yeah, exactly. I keep finding articles saying that there's no dolphins, like it was some kind of lie or something, but like the water's still clean. Like, I'm sorry if someone exaggerated the story or they just saw a dolphin, and it's not dolphins. Like, I don't care about the details. The fact is, people are realizing that we can just step back as a collective and make change.
Yeah.
Like, you have to kind of stop the ship before you can turn the ship around.
Well, that's it.
And we can do that. Sorry?
We were operating on a momentum of greed and a lot of impulse and a lot of feeling entitled. And now that we're on a halt, everything's kind of balancing out again, at least a little bit in terms of nature, and things are starting to pop up back to their natural harmony. And it's just, the question is, when this is all over, did we learn from that, or are we just going to go back on that greed train again and just ride it up to the next disaster? You know?
That's it, man.
But you know what?
Momentum's a powerful thing.
I really think sometimes when you have a crazy momentum like that, and there's just a big starch, think of like a fight. When you see like one of the best fighters in the world, he's on this huge momentum train and he gets knocked out. He has the opportunity to choose two things: double down on being this cocky, arrogant, whatever, or scratch his head and say, where did I go wrong and how do I correct this? And that's why both can happen. I'm not saying one's going to happen over the other, but if we scratch our head as a society and say, how do we change this? How do we fix this? How do we maybe we don't need to be on this giant momentum train of just go, forward, and look around and see who needs help and what's going on. And because look, this is exposing, because people are at home and a lot of people are out of work, the economy is crashing. There's businesses are shutting down because they don't have their employees. So employees are realizing their value. People are realizing their value in society, you know? So it's an interesting one. It's really, I don't know what's going to happen next, Sami. I really, really don't. And whether it's total anarchy, whether it's the system goes back on, or whether it's just a whole new thing comes out of it. Whenever there's chaos, there's an opportunity for a lot of growth.
Yeah. You know, in the tarot, like those like cards there that people like divine information from. There's a card called the Tower, and a lot of people hate that card because it signifies a kind of forced change. And in the picture, if you Google it, or maybe you could fucking edit it in the video and like throw it up or something, I could probably just find it. But like the picture is, it's like a tower exploding and like a person who was like in the top window, like falling out of the tower.
Okay.
So it's like, it's not a bad thing, but it can cause a lot of pain. And it's like, it's kind of like a ripping of the Band-Aid. You know, like it's something that needed to happen and you've been hesitating, and now it's going to happen really fast.
Yeah.
And it's hesitating, like, it's not like we're always to blame, but it's a kind of ignorance, you know, like someone like me who just like wants to work on their life and their relationships and stuff. I don't think about the bigger picture. I think about it a lot, but I don't think about how to really affect it. And then I think, oh, it's the government's problem. It's my parents' problem. It's like, like I said earlier, I have this mentality of being the younger sibling, like not just in my life and in my relationships, but in society also.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really fly anymore. You know, it's like groups of people get shit done, and that's what the government is.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying that the government is a body of people who are themselves ungoverned. You know, and it's like the government is for the people.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to keep them in check. And laws are being created to separate us from the government until they're just like overlords. And with stuff like this that's happening, they get more of a foothold. They wait for stuff like this to happen, and they take more because there's just greed in every corner of humanity, unfortunately. But when it's at a government level, when these things these are systems that are supposed to control our lives in a degree so that they can help us, greed has no place there. Corruption has no place there. And of course, that's where it is the most.
Yeah.
You know, where all the fruits are, like where the picnics happen, that's where the ants go. That's the last place you want them, because that's your food, that's your livelihood, that's your quality of life, but that's what they're attracted to. That's what they want control over, that's what they want to sustain themselves. And they're relentless and organized, and it's scary. And that's just one part of it. You know, I don't want to go too conspiratorially into shit.
Well, you're
But-
very narrowed in on that one avenue of this whole situation. You know, there's I don't know
I feel
why.
like nobody thinks about it because like a lot of people are like, "Are you saying Corona doesn't exist, bro?" And I'm like, "Dude,
I'm
not retarded.
I'm
I'm not an idiot."
I have ER friend doctors that are telling me that it's chaotic. You know, and they're
Yeah,
on the
for
front.
sure,
they're
man.
on the
You
front
can't
line.
make that up.
Yeah.
There's people.
But I
used
don't
to work at a
even
hospital.
engage.
I know a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't engage in these
Hmm?
conversations with conspiracists. I like to read it because it's hilarious. You know, there's some really funny ones out there, and like
But that's my.
Sorry.
This is my problem. I was talking to my mother the other day, and I was telling her about how this can be used, and I can even show her some stuff about how it's being used to gain more control over people, and that's scary, you know, like, and then she's like, "What are you saying? Coronavirus doesn't exist?" And I was like, I never said that. So people take someone who's got a conspiracy like centered mind and throws them in this. It's called a straw man argument. It's a fallacious argument.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to tell you something, and then you pick something that's like kind of in the same vein, or one part of my argument that might not make sense or that's easy to knock down,
Yeah.
and you pretend that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's
And that's not fair. It's not critical thinking. It's not right, because
no. We do
you
that
can
all
just
the
look
time,
at
though.
all of history and how. Sorry.
People do that all the time. It's part. You know, it's not correct, but it's just you see that everywhere.
Yeah, it's you know, the interesting thing about fallacious arguments is that they're almost like biologically wired in our head. Like they've like revealed themselves through language, and we can try to correct them. But like ad hominem is like my favorite example of this. It's a fallacious argument that says like correlation seems like causation. You know, like someone, let's say your car breaks down, and the night before you saw a guy leaving your garage or something like that, like your neighbor or something, and then maybe he was just like bringing back your garden shears or something, but somewhere in your head you're like, he fucked my car up. My car's fucked up today. Yesterday my neighbor was there, ergo he fucked my car up.
Yeah.
You have no proof of that. You don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people do that when they have a conspiracy like kind of rabbit hole that they go under as well, ironically. It's just a human thing. Fallacious arguments are so fascinating. I'm so glad I learned about them. They
It's
made
just
me a
embedded
better
in us.
person.
Yeah, because then you catch yourself on your own bullshit. You know, one of my favorite classes
Yeah.
ever was critical thinking in CJEP. It was just breaking down all the fallacies, and I'm like, wow, you know, like you would do all these crazy examples, and on the surface you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense, but then you break it down like, no, it doesn't. It's because you're doing this because of A, and that's not actually true. It's just an assumption or something, you know.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, when you
Critical
see
thinking,
them
man.
broken down, when you have a good teacher, I had a good teacher also. Same thing. I had a critical thinking
Nice.
class. I had a teacher named Mr. Bud. I fucking love this guy.
Mr. Bud.
Every time I see him, Mr. Bud.
I feel like it's like those teachers are just giant stoners and they just extrapolate on fascinating ideas.
I don't think he's a stoner, but he was a really cool dude. Like he plays in a band, and it's like a really like a grungy. No, grunge is not the word for music, but like it's got this like hillbilly-ish like prison rock. You know, there's banjos and there's like a guy who sings like this, and like it's that kind of music, and I really like it. And he's got
Sounds
like a
pretty
big
cool.
beard and stuff, and he's probably like a university professor with tenure now, but like at the time he just came in with like 2 cups of coffee, and like one was already done and he had another one, and he had so much energy and he sucked us in, and he was teaching us critical thinking by using optical illusions.
Wow.
By using like philosophers like Plato and Socrates and things like that. Like he taught us how to think. He didn't just show us
Nice.
like a syllabus, you know, like he was passionate about it. And I remember a lot about logical fallacies because it opened up my mind to how wrong I was, and not in a guilty way, but just like bifurcation is another common one, you know, like we have a tendency to be extremist and to say it's either this or that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's a third option. There's a fourth option.
There's
like
a whole gray
it's
zone
like
you're
it
not
tickles
looking in.
imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, sorry?
Continue, please.
I was saying,
Give another example.
what was I trying to say now? It just no, but I think what that class, it's not ignorant. It's not. You shouldn't be guilty about it. It's just it's exposing, like you said, it's like a biological system that we've been operating on, and now we have the tools, we have critical thinking that we can sort that out and actually make sense of everything. You know?
Yeah, but I guess it's like an uphill battle forever. That's what interests me about it being this kind of like hardwired. Yeah.
It's we're prone to it. We're tied by our emotions. No matter how much knowledge we can attain, we're guilty to our emotions or victim to our emotions, and they're not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, that's why we have art, and that's why we have music and all that stuff. We're not operating on like a robotic punch in, punch out programming type of operating system, you know?
Yeah, for sure not. I mean, I read something today, and it was this guy who was kind of like a spiritual teacher, but he wrote something along the lines of like, you need both. You really like the way he put it was elegant, and I'm trying to find it right now. But he said like, there's this importance of having knowledge and being like proud and confident in how you can think and how you can manipulate the world and all these things. But that can be, like Sadhguru says, like that can be a knife. And then you're just cutting everything. Some things don't need to be cut. Some things can't be cut.
Yeah.
Can't be understood in that analogy. Can't be dissected by your mind. And then so there's like a balancing that happens, and you need a lack of pride when it comes to the self, when it comes to the individual ability to discern, because we are smarter as a group for the most part in most endeavors.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information we can gather from ourselves as a group as well. And that's just one reason out of 100 why you shouldn't have like too much reliance on your abilities. You know, like you need to have a kind of confidence, but it's earned. It's not just like I am confident, therefore I'm good at stuff.
No.
Fake it till you make it is a thing, and it helps in a lot of contexts. But you do need to have a wit. You need to have a sharpness, and it needs to be an informed thing. And that's why something like these fallacious arguments are so powerful. It's like juggling. You suck at it at first, and then it becomes like water. Like you're not thinking about it. You just drink, like you just do it.
Yeah.
But the other side, to avoid the ego, to avoid all the pitfalls, and to avoid being overwhelmed because you don't want to be some kind of master who tries to fix the world and just gets defeated all the time, is a very spiritual, very deep understanding of acceptance and the self, and just being able to go with the flow. Yeah. Part of that flow, like I said earlier, is the desire to change things. You're not just sitting there passively like some like new age hippie guy just like saging everything and chanting Om or something. Like if these things help you, they help me too in some ways. So I'm not trying to make fun of them like I sound like I am.
No, you need to be a rational hippie.
We all need to be rational hippies. Exactly. We all need to. Peace and love is the fucking answer, but you can't.
It's not going to just show up.
You can't just say it.
Yes.
Exactly. You can't just say peace and love.
That's it, man. And that's what I realize is like the real hippies, not the ones that are just completely, I wouldn't say like disconnected, but they're definitely, there's no feet on the ground left for some people. You need a balance between the two. You can't go too far into the abyss, because then you won't relate with others, and you won't even be able to affect others. You're just going to be in like this echo chamber. You need to be rational at the same time and understand that there's a process behind everything, you know?
Yeah, I think everyone goes through this journey, and in one direction or another, we're trying to find a middle ground. But there's this like let's say I'm more of like an intuitive person. I'm more of an emotional person, and I kind of rejected that side of myself early on in life and became a very rational, very logical person. But there was all this emotional side of me that was really controlling my life that I never addressed.
I think I had the
and
same
I am
journey
where
as
I
you.
am today.
I had the same
Sorry?
journey as you, man. Same journey.
I'm really, and I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah.
I think it's a big reason why we can communicate and be friends, is because we're not exactly cut from the same cloth in many ways, but we see each other clearly.
Yeah.
You know, I look at you and I go, oh, this guy has a depth. He has his feet on the ground as well. He has a depth. He has a soul. He sees that. He projects that onto other people. He has a respect for things. He has a humility, but a confidence, and it's only something that's kind of born from bouncing in between those two sides, you know, and something that I'm not really familiar with until recently, I guess. But it's like coming from that logical side first.
Yes.
As a kid, I don't know if that even exists. I think maybe as children, we're all very emotional. So maybe it's kind of like a journey that most people are on, but there must be the other side of the coin. But anyway, like now for me personally, and I guess for you as well, we have to contextualize all of this pride and all of this logic and this sharp knife that is the intellect, and continue to build it, but for a purpose. You know, it's like, you know, we say people who are spiritual too spiritual, like too head in the clouds, like don't have their feet in the ground. But the truth is, the spirituality of things is the root of things. It's the part you don't see, but that is just as real and just as vital.
Yes.
That is my definition of spirituality. That's what the etymology of the word is. You know, spirit is unseeable, is not tangible, but it is real, and it
exactly.
affects us.
You know,
and so much of life is that.
My friend asked me what spirituality is, and I said, look, in all essence, if you want to cut it dry into a simple definition, spirituality is connecting with self. Deeply, fully connecting with yourself. And once you do that, once there's a full connection with self, then you're connecting with everyone and everything. But you can't skip that step.
You really can't, because then everything is a house of cards.
Yes, exactly. There's no foundation. And I'll bring back this quote. It's Jesus said, build your house on rock. Build your foundation on rock, not sand. And it's such a fucking profound statement if you really dissect it. What does he mean by that? Do you mean a physical house? No, he means your internal temple, you. You need to be built on stone. Stone is unbreakable, unmovable. Sand will go with the wind. And once your foundation is on stone, now you can start adding things in. Now you can start looking outwards and starting to help others or take on bigger challenges. But the foundation, the core of you needs to be built on stone, needs to be strong, stronger than anything. And then from there, you have this foundation, nothing can break you. You can go right back to the foundation all over again, but it's still there, you know? You can lose everything. Everything can go, but as long as your foundation's there, nothing in your way will destroy you. It will destroy the story that you've been operating on, but you in its core is fine. You know, and that's how I'm trying to operate my life now. I'm trying to build that foundation on stone, because nature is here to show us. It's here to show us. It shows us all the lessons we need. You know,
it's just doing its thing, and we forget that we're a part of it, and then we get like thrown into a cycle of life that is totally normal and totally natural. And yeah, like if you're not grounded in yourself, like you've said it to me a lot lately, because I'm like I went through a breakup, you know, and I didn't have a lot in my life to fall back on, and that might have been what caused the breakup also, you know. But you kept saying something. A lot of people have been saying this to me, but it's like, you got to be there for yourself. You got to have your own back.
Yes.
And I mean, that has a value that no one can, like, you know, it's like everything, all of life. But knowing you have your own back
is so empowering.
Is huge.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So empowering.
Because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just need to go to ground and to rest. And it's kind of a different ground, or like an emptier ground, because the significant other is gone, or someone died, or you're stuck in a economic collapse, and you're not allowed to go outside, you know, or like,
yeah,
there's this strange power in like not letting go of everything. Like a lot of spirituality for me has been misinterpreted, like by me, I mean. And I used to think I have to just let go of everything, everything.
No.
But that's disingenuous, because there is this core thing, and it's where core values and core beliefs come from, and it's a piece of who you are in a really real way that cannot be affected. cannot be destroyed, cannot be
can't pierce it.
tainted.
Yeah,
you just can't. And maybe in a way you can't share it either, but everyone has it. So there's something kind of innately beautiful about it in that way as well. And that's kind of what you access when you're meditating. And it's not a dullness. It's not like you're not you anymore. It's an awareness of you. Mm-hmm. And your ego is maybe not part of that, but like succumbs to it, and if you're not careful, you succumb to the ego.
Yeah.
And a slew of problems happen. And it seems like that's what we're doing as a society. I think we've said it in the past on the podcast, like we're like children, like as a society, we're like a young society.
Yeah.
We're acting like a teenager, like a preteen, and the parent, the mother, the sweet mother of Earth is someone we take for granted, and the sweet father of like the intellect and the power that we have and the logic that we are able to attain is squandered. Like we don't know what we have, or it's some kind of growing pain. I don't know where to go with this analogy,
growing pain,
but it's
man.
like
it's that. Look at your life. Okay, you've went through some ups and downs. You went through some painful moments. If you come out of all of them, hopefully you're a better person with a better insight. And we're experiencing that collectively. We're going in the ups and downs. We've had great tragedies in the human history, and it's just part of the fucking growing experience. But if you compare society from where it is now to where it used to be, I think maybe we're getting into a more connected state, and it's happening. We're able to communicate. People around the world can hear this podcast, can connect with us, can form new ideas. And in some weird way, I think all the disasters and all these chaos is all just adding to this final outcome where we're just going to achieve something. I don't know where that is, but it's like the analogy all spiritual gurus talk about is that the butterfly, we're in the cocoon and we're eventually going to spring into a butterfly. But it's also possible that if you look at the opposite, the cocoon might just collapse in on itself and it never grew. That's in our hands. That's at our potential. Both angles can happen. We're at a very crucial time in our humanity, in our point in history. It's not necessarily that we'll make it as a collective. There was many dominant species that didn't make it. They died out. We might be another one, or we might figure it out together. But the crazy thing is that we need each other to do this. We can't be separate.
Yeah, making me think of I saw a quote today or something. I don't even know if it's real. I've never heard it before. I think it was like an Einstein quote or something, but it's like, man built the atomic bomb. A mouse will never build a mousetrap. And it was like, like we did literally make a thing. Like it's not about power in the hands of the enemy, so we have to like do some kind of arms race. It's like we literally built something that can kill everybody.
Mm-hmm. On the opposite spectrum of it, though, it did a lot of good for society. Not the atomic bomb. I mean, the technology behind it, nuclear power, has done so much positive. You have the two sides of the coin. We can use it for the good or for the bad. And it's always been that decision for humanity.
Yeah, there's a joke from Futurama, and it's like the professor has this machine that's it's like a bomb, it's like some crazy like galaxy level explosion, and Amy says like, isn't that like unethical to build something like that? And he's like there's nothing inherently good or evil about technology, and he's like the death ray, and he just points to like a random thing, but it's like okay, the understanding behind the technology is rather neutral, but how we use it, like an atomic bomb is evil. Yeah. Doesn't matter how you put it. It's a necessary evil if someone who might use it thinks they have power over you, and then you have to create one to ensure safety through mutually assured destruction. Yeah. That is fucked up, but that is humanity right now, or at least it was. I think we're kind of like we've stepped away from that. Even nuclear power, because of Fukushima, it's helped a lot of people. It's not some kind of simple evil, but people are reckless. When they built Fukushima, they were like, yo, don't do this. like one tsunami and you're screwed, and we have another Chernobyl, a bigger Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Like, this is a problem. And everyone was like, nah, bro, we got it. It's cool. And then you have Michio Kaku on fucking YouTube saying like, hey, if you read the book, it just ends. No one tells you how to turn these fucking things off. We build a machine that we can't turn off.
But
and it'll just like, huh?
Isn't that isn't that the not human nature to just do everything wrong and then we have to learn the hard way? It's just been our process, individual process, collective process. I think it's just human nature is to be so stubborn that we have to learn by nature slapping us on the wrist and saying no. And that slap on the wrist turns out to be some incredible amount of deaths or some type of tragedy.
Well, on the individual level, a lot of people, maybe everybody, most people, like we gain a certain wisdom, some faster than others, but we still have to burn.
Still touch the
to
pot.
learn not to play with fire. Exactly.
Yeah, we still touch the pot.
You have to do that.
And society, we're touching the pot with a lot of things. But Sami, I've also come to terms with realizing that maybe one pot we touch collectively is the last fucking touch and we're all gone. And that's a possibility too. Hopefully we learned enough from the past and now whatever's happening to not make that mistake. But it's very well in the realms of possibility. It's not certain that we will transcend and become the collective consciousness, the collective altogether. It might not happen. You know, I feel like we're on that path as a society where there's chaos in everything, there's good and there's bad, but if you look at it of what we've accomplished, I think we're heading in that direction, even though it may seem like it's in foggy territory and it's far away. I think in some way we might be able to balance it out if we don't kill ourselves off.
It's so there's so much minutia in there also, because it's like there's certain people in power, and what if certain things lead to certain people being killed off, and then there's a certain kind of status quo that continues. What if a bunch of people, what if like just the right people die? I mean, that's a horrible thing to say, but I like in the grander scheme of things, it's like we're like a brain, and there's certain types of people in certain places, which means that entire like organs or countries could be destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, or like a certain type of virus could attack a certain type of person, and then that is removed from our society, and that completely changes the course of our society as a species.
It's crazy.
And then the fun part of all of this, because that's crazy to think about already, and you put it perfectly. But what's crazy is that the pot comes out of nowhere and burns us sometime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can touch something and go, oh, that was bad. And then, you know, that's how you learn that like lead is poisonous and like stuff is radioactive and like a bunch of fun stuff about science, where like people used to like, you know, put mercury on clothing or something for some reason. I don't remember the reason. And that's where you got the expression Mad Hatter, because they used to use it to like treat clothing somehow. And they would be manipulating mercury and it would go into their blood and make them go insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it damages your brain. And so all of that is like us touching the pot, getting burned. People literally have to die. And we go, oh shit, like we can't let that happen again because I don't want to die. That sucks. But then there's also like viruses, meteors, solar flares, just fun, random shit that the universe could throw our way. That a lot of people on the planet are very scientifically inclined and are saying, like they're like canaries trying to warn us.
But the ego gets involved and says, "Oh, it's not happening, you know, not in my lifetime or whatever. I don't need to worry about this."
It's worse than ignorance. It's like arrogance. It's like Galileo saying, "This is a planet. It's round. We spin around the sun, not the other way around." He said we spin around the sun. So that guy got killed because the church was in power at the time.
It threatened the structure.
Ideology is ideology, whether you are a scientific materialist and you shun the spirituality that we talked about earlier, or you're a full-on spiritualist of some specific religion or not, and you shun the material world, which is which is a great, grand part of our collective experience.
Yeah.
It's gonna fucking hit the fan eventually. And like in a way I'm saying like don't separate church and state, but it's like a type of person needs to be leading, a reluctant person, needs to be forced into power so that they'll make the right decisions, because they're going to listen to what needs to be done instead of what they want. Because an individual shouldn't have power, essentially. An individual just shouldn't have power.
No.
We're all flawed. We're all...
It's got to be like a council.
That too, yeah.
You know?
A council. You know, like layers of accountability and layers of like oversight, not to a redundant level like there is in our government today as well. It's not hard to design a better government. It's not hard to make something that, especially with the internet and technology today, where we can have like no privacy for the public servants. They don't deserve privacy. And when they fuck us over, they should get more jail time, more fines than the average person, not less.
Yeah.
You know, like everything is backwards in that sense.
You know, I think it's just going to happen, but in due time. Everything when you're looking at your life, for example, things change pretty slowly for the most part. You know, there's some drastic moments in your life that will change fast, but most part change is gradual. Now extrapolate that into society, into millions of people, if not billions of people, and change is a lot slower than we would like it to be, but it's still, the change is happening. It's just, it might not be in our lifetime, it might be in our lifetime, but I think we're heading in that direction, Sami. I think the good will always outnumber the bad, and then eventually those good will get older and will start going into more political positions, and then that new insight and new philosophies will spring out of this, you know? Like, we have yet to see what the age of internet will do to the youth, us, in the next 30, 40 years, you know? When we take the ship's wheel, you know? I don't know what the world will be like.
It's not even like, I feel like I was experimented on when it comes to the internet. I feel like I grew up without it, and then it turned into this sudden access of a bunch of information, and it's very addictive for me. And people who grew up with it later are maybe like less inclined to use it properly and also have those addictive properties, but maybe they're a little more immune to it, or they have a clearer memory of how it was living before then. You know, these latchkey kids, or like even before that, who like had a freedom when they were children, and they weren't like they weren't raised in this like crazy fear where like everyone was a child molester and like all this crazy stuff you saw on TV and the internet and stuff in the early days. And then the later people, like the generation after us, who
that's all they know,
who are all on fucking TikTok and shit like that. Like that is all they know, and a lot of them are going to be better equipped. Like it's a different species. It's like another form of humanity now, because their mind grew up with a screen, and the screen takes up the potential of the screen. For me, I don't know if it's the same for them, but it takes up so much space in my mind, and I only noticed it when I went to Vipassana. How my imagination was damaged, because I was like in a box. The way I thought, the way I saw words, the way I saw communicating with people. I used to be a kind of free-form person, and everything was manipulatable, you know, down to the fabric of reality, down to atoms, you know. Like I felt powerful. I felt proud of being a human. And knowing the potential of how we can manipulate things with technology, just through imagination, just through sheer will and through education. And I slowly turned into this person who was just entertained all the time. And it didn't even feel good all the time. Like that's a subtle thing that I talk about often also. Like anger and hatred are addictive. They don't feel good, but somewhere inside they do feel good. They do hit some kind of wiring that we desire. And you know, I'd love to talk to some younger people who are just awake, but using these platforms in a smart way, making their own platforms, maybe, you know, I don't know. I want to see what comes next. I'm really curious, and I have a lot of hope, but again, with this whole duality thing I keep bringing up, there's going to be a lot of good and there's going to be a lot of bad in the short term and in the long term.
Well,
and
I guess
it's hard to contemplate.
our part is which side we want to contribute to, you know? Because when you're saying there's going to be good and bad, it's us included in the mix, you know? What can we...
That's true. I guess I just feel like I don't know. Sometimes what's amazing, what's really good for the collective is not good for everybody who's presently living. So then you get this kind of like Hitler-esque mentality where it's like, no, I'm doing the world a service, but I'm creating a bunch of suffering now, for the to build on the bones of those people a better world, and that's like horrible and tragic and hopefully not necessary. But I don't know. I feel like it can be very nuanced. You know, there was this movie. There was a show called Firefly that was like one season, and Fox canceled it because they used to cancel everything. And it's by Joss Whedon, actually, too, like the guy who did Buffy and Angel, and a really cool show called Dollhouse. And the movie Firefly, the movie was called Serenity, and the bad guy in there said a line that stuck with me for a long time, sticks with me now. But it's like, he's a monster. He calls himself a monster. He's like, he's saying like, you and I are the same, like to the good guy. And the guy's like, I don't kill kids. And he goes, I do. Like, he says it without hesitation. And he's like, I'm a tool for the powers that be, because they can't get their hands dirty, but I can. And I'm building a better world. And he goes like, he asks him sort of like, how do you live in the better world if you're a murderer? You know? And he goes, I'm not going to live there. He has this resolve. He goes, I can't live there. I'm a monster.
Yeah.
Like, he has this kind of resolve to be like, there's a unity of planets in this show. It's like a spacefaring show. It's a very interesting show. And
what's it
somehow
called?
The show's called Firefly. Okay. It's like a cowboy western, but also like a sci-fi, and it works. It's a very crazy show, but like it makes sense, you know? Yeah. Because like the outskirt planets require more resources to terraform. So they're like poorer. They're like the ghettos or the projects or whatever, like the slums of the solar system. And the more inner planets are like in the Goldilocks zone, and it's easier to terraform them and turn them into like Earth-like planets, and they're the richer planets. And you have a lot of interesting like economic situations and this thing called the Alliance, which is like the way back when of like US and China mixing together to make this like superpower, and they took over everything. Okay. And they rule with an iron fist. Wow. You know, like they do a lot of good because they have the medical technology to help people and the resources to get those like the boots on the ground, and the technology and all that stuff continues because of that machine that is inherently evil in a sense, because it's oppressive and inclusive. Yeah. Or I guess exclusive.
Exclusive. But that's the archetype for life. I mean, there's good forces and bad forces throughout all of history. And it's the yin and yang, and those forces are battling for eternity, you know? And I think it's just we're on a certain team. We know we're on I know I'm on the good team, and I know I can speak for you, but I know you're for the good, you know? And
I think it's an internal struggle that I've gone through in my life, and I think a lot of people are living very painful lives because they believe that they're evil. Yeah. And it's really just a choice of how you choose to act and how you choose to see yourself. Absolutely. And when I realized that, my life changed. That was like 10, 20 years ago or something. I was like very young. And it's like there's nothing to being good or evil other than like the actions that I produce. Yes. So I came to understand that I could just choose to be good. And then I felt that.
You eliminate the victim.
And I exposed myself to that. And I'm not really doing much to help the world other than like I'm just trying to get on my feet as a human being, to be honest. And now with the breakup too, I just feel like I don't have a lot to show for it, and I do want to help in a tangible way, in a way that will make me kind of proud or able to sustain like an encouragement or a motivation, because it's not about me anymore. But that's just stuff that happens as we get older. The point is or I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when it becomes an exterior of good and evil, it's a lot more convoluted, because what's right for some is not right for others. And in a society, in the type of society we have now, it's very hard to maintain individual rights for everybody, because like my rights end where your rights begin. That's a really simple way of putting it, and none of that matters in our society. It's just all hierarchical bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's all capitalism and socialism, and there's always greed in all systems, and none of them work because there's always like a king or a queen. There's like always someone at the top who needs to be the director, because we're all fucking monkeys and we want an alpha. Well,
maybe
we're not built that way. We don't have alphas.
No, but you know what?
But there's
maybe that was just what leads to what's next, and that was what was needed to lead to what's next, you know? And I don't think any of us know what's next in terms of what political system will be in place if things failed or whatever. But I think these are all stepping stones, you know? It's like in your teenage years, you have like some teens that start off as punks, and then they look back at it when they're in their 30s and be like, wow, I was a punk back then? I can't believe that. I would have never dressed like that. But that was needed for them to get to that realization or whatever. Not hating on punks, by the way. Shout out to you, all you punks. I love you all. But perhaps this is just something that maybe in 200 years they'll be like, whoa, they had a leader? That's how they operated? What archaic times, you know? And we're just in it, so we're just a little bit pessimistic, a little bit afraid, a little bit naive, whatever, but we're just in it. We're in this moment, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like you're touching on or kind of circling around this deep acceptance again that we need to kind of.
Well, that's it. It always goes back to that. It always goes back to that.
Yeah.
Because you can get caught up.
It's the rocket behind your intelligence. You know, it's like the navigation for your capabilities almost. Because a lot of people are born into rich families or poor families, or they're just genetically smarter or stupider or less capable, or their bodies are different or damaged or stronger. Like
or everything.
We kind of have we kind of just have a lottery. Like we're kind of just born into some strange web of karma, and you know, especially in this society, it's not as easy as it should be to rise the ranks. You know, like the game is rigged, if you will. And we have to, that's kind of the lesson we're going through now, is that we have to work as a team.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of build small teams around us that will then join with other teams, and a lot of compromise and a lot of understanding needs to happen, because it's more and more people kind of trying to make better change and kind of unite against a common enemy, and all these things that can get really squirrely and really messy.
Yeah.
But they're like the reason that we're alive. You know, it's like we're community driven.
Absolutely.
There's like a community that's against us as a like against health, against intelligence, against spirituality, and is just trying to, and it's just lost in its own karma. That's their lottery. They affect the world in a big way.
All is needed, though.
And but it's a weird it's a weird like duality there also, because I'm not like a president. I'm not a Donald Trump. I'm not like these people who can go into positions of power and make great change. And all the people behind them that you don't even know their names, because they're like the true intelligence and the true power of the world that you only hear about like later in history.
But you know what?
I am still here, and I still have capabilities.
And your change will affect. That's what we have to remember. And that's the power we've given up. A lot of us have given up, that our change actually has an effect.
It's almost like a death for some people.
Oh, what, sorry?
Like it's almost like a death for some people. Like you have to grieve the fact that you won't be this other person. You know, like you can devote your life to it, but like Tom Segura said in his stand-up special, like the way you succeed at life is you have a goal and you drive towards it, but you have zero expectation about how it's going to look. You just constantly, you're like, oh, okay, I got to do this now in order to get that. Fine.
Yeah.
You don't care about the way you get there. You don't hold on to the exact image of the end result either. And a lot of people who, wanted to be a president are some kind of senator somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you can still do a lot with your karma, with your incarnation, with your existence, with whatever you want to call it. But there is still like there's this death sometimes. Like I don't think I'll ever be like like my brother is a good example actually, because he loves driving. He's very good at it, and he's kind of like a little on the short side. Like he's not super short, but he's like noticeably like I have like a few inches on him, and I'm not even 6 feet tall. So he was like, I could have been a perfect like candidate for racing. He told me this like recently, and it's just something that's coming to mind now. Like he could have been like an F1, like a Formula One driver or something. He would have been amazing at it. He would have loved his life. He would have been making $1 bajillion.
Okay.
He would have been, but now he's like in his mid-30s, and he's like in a way that ship has sailed. In a big way, that ship has sailed. He can force it and waste a lot of time and money and energy and a lot of years and get close to it and then be like a coach or a mechanic or something like that. But like the truth of the situation is that you need to be like some 12-year-old prodigy. And then when you're like 18 or 20 or something like that, and you're from a rich family, or you did some kind of, somehow you like got into the ranks and you have the skill and the know-how and the this and that and this, and then the right people backed you up at the right time. Like it's a fucking lottery all in itself there as well. So he doesn't think of that, and he just that ship has sailed. That died in him, and now he's taking his energy for real. That's another acceptance,
and that's so important though. That's so important because it's so easy to get caught up in the I wish I was this person, or you know what, I could have done this, I could have done that, and then all that energy, like you just spoke about with your brother, just that energy shifting, is all that energy was going towards what you could have been or what you thought you were meant to do, and then that energy is being wasted in a sense into an illusion, instead of taking that energy and be like, you know what, okay, fuck, the acceptance part of that is going to take its time. Like you might be upset about it for whatever time it is, but that energy's got to go somewhere else, and you can apply that formula into something else and build something from that. But you see that all the time as people get caught up in they just romanticize the past of what they could have been, and they create these scenarios of how exactly they would have done it. They create like a blueprint of how they would have achieved where they should have been instead of achieving where they can go now.
Yeah, that's the whole like Tao, like the whole the thing you can't really understand because again of like fallacious arguments, like the biology of your mind can't accept that you get more control sometimes from giving up control. And there's like a flow to things, and that's it's weird, but like sometimes when I'm meditating, I feel like I'm part of a story, and stories have a certain structure, so it's like I can kind of guess the ending, or like not the ending, like I'm talking about my life, so I'm not talking about dying, but I'm talking about like the next scene has like a certain logic because it comes from what's happening now.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm part of some
an educated prediction, right?
Yeah, sort of. It's like it could go left or right, let's say, but there is this like there's a lot of expectation that is not unfounded. Expectation leads to disappointment and all these things, but not in a global sense. Like expecting things that can't be, or expecting things all the time can be detrimental to a person. But like Tom Segura was saying about like just go with the goal and have a loose idea of how the goal gets done and what the end product is going to look like. Well,
Sorry.
Sorry.
How I visualize goals now, and I think it's since maybe before Vipassana or at Vipassana, but I look at goals like a mathematical equation. You put your goal, you put a value on it, 30. Okay? So you put equals 30. And now to reach your goal, you can do every type of combination of numbers to hit 30, but that's where the creativity comes in. And that's kind of what Tom was alluding at, is just your goal is there and you just loosely get to it. So I can do 15 plus 15 to 30. I can do 1 plus 1 plus 1 all the way to 30. And there's just not an infinite of ways of getting it, but there's a shit ton of ways to get to that goal, you know?
Mm.
And that's kind of how I operate on things now. If I have a task or something I want to achieve, you have the structure, you have where you want to go, but you know that you can fuck around a bit. You can try new things in order to get to that goal. You can test, retest, fail. You know, the formula is never the same for two people, which is kind of nice.
That's true. If life was spelled out, it'd be kind of boring.
Yeah, it'd be horrible. It'd be do what I do, and then you just follow, and you're successful too, and then the next person does it, and then we're just robots. You know? That's the beauty of this, is everyone can figure out a way to get to where they want to get. And like, you have to be realistic too. You have to have that sense. But realistic is also a subcategory to it, is acceptance. Accepting that you maybe aren't biologically able to do certain things. Like, I know, judging on my height and whatever, I would never be able to go into the NBA at the highest level. You know, and some people might say, oh yeah, if you believe in it, you could. But realistically, I'm like 5'9", 5'10", you know? So it's just, there's some realism that you have to have in your goals too. It can't just be so far-fetched, you know? There has to be a level of acceptance in there.
It's tough sometimes because you had your heart set on something, and it's like I said earlier, it's like a death, you know? Like if someone, sometimes it's like a stupidity though, you know? Like you need to hear these things and get smart. I don't want to be cynical. Maybe I just feel that way lately, you know? But it's like, at the same time, I feel very motivated, you know? Like there's a lot of stuff I can't do. Like I was drawing today, and I'm not that good. I'm not that bad. I can cultivate it and get better at it. I don't think I'm going to make a career out of it. And I'm pretty good at music.
Yeah.
I can fuck around a little bit. I can maybe write some songs. I can jam with people. But again, I'm not that good at it. I don't think I want to make a career out of it. But I can cultivate these things and have fun with them. And they're the things I might have to sacrifice, even though I enjoy them, for like a greater, like let's say I want to become a physiotherapist or a psychologist. I need like 5-10 years in school. Mm-hmm. And I need to work at the same time because of my age, because of this pressures I have on just in the society, just by virtue of living in this world. So I'm not going to rewrite the book.
No,
I'm not going to rewrite society. I'm just one man. We can, as a collective, redirect the ship. And I say redirect carefully because we can't just pretend that we're going on another bearing. We have to go from where we are to where we want to go.
We got to turn. And that turn could be 50 years or 10 years or 5 years or 1 month, but we have to turn the ship, you know?
We have to know we're driving in the first place. Mm-hmm. I think that's the problem. Yes. I think the people who know that they're driving are taking advantage. And if as a globe we start driving, then we're going to be in a lot of a better place, and we'll have a kind of a more democratic world.
Yeah.
Because as it stands now, democracy doesn't really exist, and maybe it shouldn't even, because most of us are not educated, and we can't all have a say on what happens. I don't know if that's even the best thing. Sometimes the collective is wrong. Sometimes we're stupid as a collective, and we'll just all vote for something, you know, like, here's an example. No offense to anybody, okay, but do you remember there was this mom who had like a mask on, and it was like a Chewbacca mask?
Oh yeah, she was laughing or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like an electronic mask that would make the sound. It was a little
video. Yeah, it was like a viral video.
Yeah, that girl, that woman must have made like $100,000 or something.
Yeah,
because the collective of YouTube viewers suddenly decided that this was important.
I don't know if important was the right word for it. It was a moment of entertainment.
Sure, but sometimes we prioritize entertainment like that's what I'm saying. Like our collective right now is in this Netflix and chill mode, which I expressed other worries earlier, but like we don't know the power we have. We don't move as a collective. We're like ants who are just running on programming, but our programming is not functional for the anthill. You know, like we're monkeys and we're pretending we're ants. We're not controlling our population. We're not using our technology and our resources and our intelligence to predict and to prevent disaster. And we're just letting, as a collective, whether people want to hear this or not, because we just got to go to work and we got to do our thing and we got to get our paycheck, we got to feed our kids. Life is scary. I know that. Whether you like it or not, as a collective, we are fucking letting greedy psychopaths run our entire lives. And that is terrifying and abnormal to me, but it is happening. So I guess there's a part of acceptance there as well. And all I can do is talk. I can write. I can teach people to be more comfortable in their bodies through yoga. I can go to school and become something of a healer, someone who can help society in my little way. But I can't really affect that. I am just one man, as they say.
And you do what you can. And you can't.
Ideas are strong.
That. You can't devalue that, because if we all do what we can, that's how you solve these problems. You know, it's just
everyone's jumping on different ideas too. That's the fun part. Like there's nothing new under the sun, so you're kind of just picking a hat to wear. You're picking a team, and it's not just good or evil. You know, like it's unclear what is best for the future.
What's important too, though, Sami,
some stuff is clear.
What's important too, Sami, is it's easy to get carried away into these whole notions and ideas that there's psychopaths running the world. Yes, there are, but in a day-to-day basis, the people you encounter, how many are negative? Obviously, not right now because we're all locked in our own houses, but in general.
But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because like I'm part of a certain stratus of society and I bump up against the similar people. Yeah. I don't rub elbows with the people who run the world. And I don't know how many of them are genuinely nice people.
But my point is that they're a very small number. And yes, they're in the control for now, but there will always be a small number, and we need to remember that.
And we also need to just take care of ourselves. Like you've been telling me a lot lately, because I've been really down on myself for.
It's the only thing you can do,
girlfriend and my job and everything.
It's the only thing you can do. But is you
not being
fix
overwhelmed.
Yourself, take care of yourself, have yourselves your own back, build yourself, and then from there tackle on the bigger problems. But if you're going to tackle on bigger problems without any foundation, you're done. You're destined to fail. And I'm not talking about you in general. I'm talking about humans, people. We need to fix whatever the fuck's inside. It's the only way. It's the only way, man.
And that's our job.
That's
your job, and that's my job.
Yes.
We want to fix people. We want to fix ourselves.
Fix ourselves first.
That's our karma. That's our plan of attack.
And in doing that is more than enough. Boom.
Dude, it's everything. If that's what we can do, if that's what we're meant to do, it's everything.
That's it, brother. On that note, let's sign out. I don't know how long it's been. Does it say?
Like about an hour, I think.
Okay, cool. Because I think it's like 5 o'clock. I got to get going.
All right, man.
So this was a interesting phone call podcast. I guess we'll sign out the usual way. Sami, I usually see you on my right or left, but you're not here. So it's a little weird.
I don't know. I'm staring into a camera, pretending I'm talking to you, man.
I'm in the camera too now. I'm waving at you, and I'm waving at all our listeners. Stay
safe.
Love you.
Stay curious.
Honestly, look, one last thing, though. Take this moment of isolation and quarantine or whatever's going on to just reconnect with your friends, with your family, and yourself, and really just take that moment and really appreciate what you miss and what you had and what you took for granted. And look inwards. Don't just distract and watch the next series on Netflix and every movie you can think of. Like, I'm doing it too, so I'm not talking from a position of... I'm not talking any hierarchy here, but I'm just saying, even if it's a 2-second moment, because I'm really starting to feel grateful for a lot of things I never thought about. And a lot of things as simple as just walking in a crowded area. How crazy is that? I would get frustrated walking in a crowded area, Sami, and now I kind of miss it. We just take these things for granted. It's the funniest thing. So look at the things you miss. Appreciate the things you miss. And that's how change will happen once this craziness fades away, or if it doesn't fade away. Hopefully it fades away, and then you'll live a fuller life with more gratitude, appreciation, and love for everyone and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen, brother.
Can't add to that. Perfect.
Peace.